Nothing like a global pandemic to switch your mindset. I'm Allison Johnson, and this is my husband, Kurt. And we've been at St. Margaret's for roughly 11 years. We started at St. Margaret's whenever our oldest daughter, Amelia, was about 2 years old. And Lane, our youngest daughter, who's now 9, she was just a twinkle in our eye. We had Lane baptized at St. Margaret's and have enjoyed being a part of this community for a really long time. We were talking about this, about how well we've actually fared during this compared to so many.
I was looking forward actually to going back to the office. I like the separation between the house and the office. But when this hit, I ended up going full-time remote at this point. And so I take the kids to and from school. Our kids are still going to the school, but that's about the only time that I get out of the house.
And for me, there's been no gap whatsoever. It's because I work for the VA hospital. I've been going to work, and so it's been a different kind of work, right? I'm not seeing anybody in person. I'm only doing like video therapy appointments and over the phone. But there was no, everybody was talking about how interesting it was going to be, for them to, I'm home in my pajamas and like, this is my new work uniform. And for me, I was like, I'm getting up and like driving to North Little Rock.
Go to work virtually.
Exactly.
That's what she's doing.
It's curious to do psychotherapy over the computer or over the telephone, especially whenever it comes to treating PTSD, which is what I do. I've got some veterans who say, this is awesome, because they've not wanted to leave their house, and so this isolation is really in line with what their symptoms are telling them to do. So it's been more difficult to get people to sort of challenge that. And for some folks, it's actually made their PTSD worse. They were sort of managing relatively well, and this isolation has created a situation where their symptoms increase. They're not sleeping well. They're not interacting with other people, and so they're decompensating. We had scheduled really like the most busy spring and summer that we were going to have in a long time, honestly.
Every week.
It's packed. And so when everything changed, there was a lot of grief. But I guess in the midst of all of that, like as busy as we were going to be, and in all the preparation, right? And all the preparation that we had to do to get ready for all of these events, all the plans we had to make, when everything came crumbling down, all of a sudden there was just like a blank slate. And that was such a curious thing because that's not at all what we were expecting.
I think early on it was like it was day for day. Are we going to do this? Or are we going to cancel this? Are we going to do this? Or are we going to cancel this? And then it reached a point is like, everything's canceled. And there was a peace that came with that, right? Because you didn't have anxiety about whether we're going to go forward with this or not.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
We just had nothing in front of us. And so from that nothingness, it was so curious. It was like almost like a forest fire. Everything kind of got burnt down. And then all of a sudden, in the most unusual and unexpected ways, things started kind of springing back to life. But they were
new life. It wasn't like what it was before.
And it was all self-created. So Kurt and I were in charge of all of that new growth. And it all happened in that sort of bubble that we found ourselves in.
They're doing well. It's for us, the options were you either go full remote or you go full on site, and
nothing in between.
Nothing in between. So if you went full remote, we have our older daughters very into extracurricular activities, clubs, band, and such. And because of that, the only way she could be involved in any of that was if she went to the classroom.
I remember when we went on vacation, we went on that quarantine vacation, which we did super cautious, that on our way home from our vacation that, tears were shed because we weren't exactly sure what we were going to do with our kids. And there was a lot of back and forth. It was almost like day to day, hour to hour, like, are we going to do this? Are we going to send our kids back to school? Do we take that risk? What does that mean for us or our parents? And so we struggled with that decision. We really did.
I don't think one of our kids would have handled it better than the other, with regard to being able to work on their own, to put that way. And they were super bummed the first week of what it actually was in the classrooms and such. Mm-hmm. But since then it's just normal. It's wild. They'll get in the car and leave their mask on all the way home. They do. They don't even think about it anymore at all. Yeah. It's just second nature for them. So
bizarre how these kids have acclimated. It really makes us feel our age, because it's taken us a little bit longer, I think.
I've been absolutely amazed with how our girls have changed with regard to each other. It became, wow, we have to learn who each other are. We have to learn who our parents are. We have to learn who each other are. And they have become best friends, honestly. And their ability to be with each other and be a part of each other and lean on each other constantly since probably mid-April has brought us together, I feel, as a family. They're much more curious than I feel they were before, because the schedule drove them so much. And so when I think about, like, every time we have a meal and such, far more than we ever did in the past, we actually sit and have thanks and prayer for how we've made it through this and how we're tighter as a family. I also feel that I notice a lot more around the peacefulness that we have. Like, I see smaller things that maybe I wouldn't have before, that I'm thinking through something, or if we're outside, we spend more time outside than we ever have now.
Which is saying something.
Winter months are going to make that a little more challenging, right? I think everybody's in for some new challenges as the days get shorter and the nights get colder. But I feel that I now see more in the nature around me than I had before.
Gosh, I guess it was Easter, right? That was like the first religious holiday that we went through, with COVID being a big presence.
We have very large gatherings for Easter.
We do.
We do. Normal.
And so what it really felt like was sort of a pruning, right, of our spiritual lives, because so much involved in celebrating Easter, right? I mean, the risen Lord it was very much demonstrated through these traditions that we've developed over the years. So all of these traditions just sort of like fell away. And so it sort of reduced the holiday down to its essence. And I think because of that, we were left with some real meaning that doesn't necessarily get lost with our traditions, but certainly, especially for our children, can simply be part of it, right? So the essence becomes part of that tradition, and it just sort of gets folded into everything else. We dressed up in crazy clothes with big hats. We played croquet and had like a tea party. I mean, these things that...
It was a beautiful day. We were out in our front lawn.
Yeah. I mean, it
created our own cross that we flowered and put on our mailbox.
Oh, yeah. And which was something that we were able to, transition from church. I mean, that's something the girls were used to doing at St. Margaret's. And when we did that at home, it wasn't the same thing. There wasn't the hustle and bustle and the pretty dresses and we got to get there on time and the cookies and but what we did the same things, but with a completely different context. And it was kind of beautiful how we witnessed our children experiencing that, because there were familiarities about our traditions, but it was different altogether because it was just us. Maybe croquet.
We had croquet and badminton.
We did. I went a little heavy on the Amazon yard games. I did. Kurt was like, what if we just bought? that interaction with other people, that physical touch, right? I mean, even in church, like whenever we get to, exchange the peace. I mean, things like that are huge for people, and there's a real deficit that exists whenever we're not able to be physically a part of each other's lives.
I think that's been the challenge for me. Kind of the ritual of going to church. I walk in with a certain feeling, but there's a positivity in the environment that I miss that fulfills me every time. And I walk out the door and much more centered, happier, looking forward to the week and where things are going to go. And so that has actually, for me, has been challenging, and how to work through that and still move along. One thing that I thought about today of how I feel I've helped from just a spiritual way is really actually through work. So I have management under me and other employees, and graciously our company has been very open and to people's needs that are COVID related or not, but just handling the situation very well. I've been very proud of what our company's done, and it's also allowed me to bring compassion within my management. I've been really driving in all of my reviews and meetings with people to realize there's a lot of things going on that are not inside of this office, especially during these times. I have now seen my staff helping their own employees. We've had a couple who've come down with COVID. One had a really hard time with it, but he's fully recovered now. But still, there's just things that are happening that we don't see. And so creating a compassionate workplace, I think, has been very positive with our workforce. The compassion and grace that I think I've been able to exude with the people around me, I think is where my spiritual growth has been over the past few months.
And people can actually be okay. And that compassion is not a liability. It's not something that makes the quality of the work any less. It actually, when you take care of yourself and you take care of other people, things actually can come out ahead.
All the girls in our house are these awesome event planners, and so they come up with something to be excited about. And one of the coolest things that our girls pulled together was the Hamilton party. And I think that's a big part of COVID, is having something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
I guess is where I'm going with that. For us, it'd be Allison and I going on more dates, honestly.
Right.
Because that's something that we did regularly, and it's just kind of got shut off.
Yeah.
In a way, every once in a while we do, but you feel, in a way, you have some what I'm trying to say, you feel a little bit bad about going out. It's like, should I be doing this?
Yeah. You mean like pre-COVID?
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
I don't feel bad about it.
I'm talking about during COVID.
Oh, during COVID.
I'm talking about during COVID. And that's something I miss a lot, is just the freedom to make a choice.
Go to bed. One of the biggest gifts we can give is the health of our relationship. Good night. I definitely think we'd travel more. We had hopes of taking our girls to Costa Rica, and I don't know when we'll be able to do that. And this absence of being able to make plans.
Can't make plans. That's probably a big one, is the ability to plan, I feel, is lost right now.
Absolutely. And we're really big planners. I love a good plan. I love planning. And so not being able to, have those things to look forward to that we can kind of carve in stone and have a light at the end of the tunnel from work and school, and, that we grieve that. We don't know what in the world is going to come next. I think that's a question a lot of people are asking themselves lately. Why do we keep giving, during a time whenever we don't have access to everything that we had before COVID? And we've talked about this. I've planted a winter garden for the very first time ever. And in planting a garden, I think there's a quote somewhere that says, a garden is so hopeful. Because, you know, if the world's going to end, you wouldn't plant a garden. And I really feel like St. Margaret's for us is, it's like putting roots in the ground. It's something that's going to be there, regardless of what happens on the news, regardless of what happens with this pandemic. You know, the roots that we're putting down with St. Margaret's and in giving to our church, it's a long view. You know, we have kids who are 9 and 13, and all of the benefits that even thus far in their young lives that they've received from our church are just priceless. I mean, we're growing human beings. These kids, their view of the world, and it's kind of corny to say, but you know, the impact that they're going to have on the world.
These are opportunities I didn't have when I grew up, but I see it with our kids, and I see it even with us, our ability to know that what we're putting into this is coming back so much more. We aren't able to take part of everything we could have before if the pandemic were happening. At the same time, we know that where our giving is going is going to grow and prosper on the other side of this, and that we trust everyone who's a part of this family in our church and how they will use our abilities to give and use that to take us to a next place on the other side of this.
Whenever you look at plants that come back every year, you know, those plants that look dead in the winter, but then whenever the spring comes, all of a sudden you see all this new growth. That is really representative of what St. Margaret's is for us. But as our kids get older, and I can't even really go there, but whenever we kind of, you know, look at like whenever they graduate, Amelia is 5 years from her graduation from high school, you know, and it offers this element of hope. Who are we going to be after, you know, our kids grow up and leave home? And looking at St. Margaret's as a community, there's a place for us. And there's more than just a place, but there's this opportunity of wherever we are spiritually, or in our relationship as, you know, a married couple, that we're not only going to have growth, we're going to have support and the opportunity to kind of explore who we are, because I don't know who we're going to be. You know, after all of this, my God, a year ago, I had no idea who we were going to be right now. I mean, all of this has been a big surprise. And so having that opportunity to know that we have room to grow, we've got a big enough pot, you know, to be able to grow and blossom into things that we can't even perhaps expect right now.